Welcome, world. Thanks for being here today. My name is Stephanie, your hostess here on Sacred Earth Essentials, where we believe the earth is sacred and you are too. So, we are doing a special series this year called the Soil and Soul series. And this journey is all about learning about soil and soul. So, we are discussing topics related to making soil, saving soil, making compost, natural farming, and the different types of fruits, vegetables, herbs, and cultures that come from different soils, different terroirs, different Appalachias, different regions of the world. And so we are starting here in sunny Vermont. So welcome to my Vermont home here, where I learn about herbalism and organic farming, as well as different types of shamanism and holistic healing modalities. So you will get a smorgasbord, an eclectic plethora of information here on this channel. And so yesterday we were talking about the rose, one of my favorite plants. And today I wanted to extend the conversation about the rose a little bit more to encompass some important environmental considerations this upcoming Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, or anytime you buy cut flowers, whether they be roses or cannabis. And so I think that it is very important to bring the constant attention back to pesticides and dangerous chemicals that are continuing to be poured into the earth to grow things like roses, for example. This is just one major example, because the environmental impact of roses is actually quite large. And roses, as much as I love them, are not necessarily essential food source. And I believe it's essential to have roses. However, I don't believe that it's essential or good for the environment to be responsible for such a large negative impact on the soil, or as well as on the people that are growing and harvesting these roses. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the dark side of the rose industry. Okay, so there are about 4 billion roses that are imported into the United States every year. And obviously that number increases right before Valentine's Day. Now, as you know, I adore roses. I love roses. They make me happy. I always go over to smell them, almost always, when I go to the grocery store. However, I would like for some of you to experiment with this. If all you've ever known are the non-organic, non-fair trade roses from your local supermarket, if you can get yourself to a botanical sanctuary or some type of organic flower curator, or even ordering some type of flower rose, potted rose online, the smell, the scent from a natural rose is completely different from, no offense, a bouquet from a place like Walmart. Please don't sue me, Walmart. I'm just giving my personal opinion, my review on your roses, and they suck. So sorry, but they buy them in bulk, right? And even if they are buying them fair trade, which I have not sure, maybe Walmart is upgrading to fair trade these days, there's still a ton of emissions that occur from transporting roses from countries like Colombia and Ecuador to the United States. And those are two of the countries that have the largest amount of roses being imported into the United States. We have the largest amount being imported to us from those countries, exported out of those countries, right? And not only does this have an environmental impact, globally speaking, because of the emissions that come out of the airplanes, trying to get better lighting here. That's probably not the right angle. I need like a couple lessons in videography. But anyways, I wander and I digress. The important part is the message. And the message is that we are damaging the globe and the earth and our own health by prioritizing things that on a surface level may seem out of love. But if we were to go deeper into what is love, they aren't love. You know, getting roses from someone, as much of a beautiful gesture as that is, does not mean that that person loves you. And when we're looking at what love is on a larger scale, love is much deeper than just romance. So I love getting roses. They make me happy. If someone were to bring me roses, I'm not going to say to them, you know, oh my goodness, I'm not going to accept these roses because of their impact on the environment. Although one should probably begin to say things like that to change the culture. Right before Valentine's Day, there's about 1.1 million roses alone that are coming from Colombia, for example. And they'll come packed on planes that are being refrigerated, and there are planes taking trips daily, especially into places like Florida, for example, was one of the most popular places that flowers are imported into. We do have some flowers that are grown in places like California, for example, is also known for growing flowers. And some of the things that we can look for when buying flowers are we would like to grow our own first, ideally speaking, if possible. And then if you can't grow your own or don't know how yet, you can go and look for local flower shops, local gardeners, local florists in your area. And if that's still isn't an option, then you can also look at the places that do have flowers near you for flowers that are fair trade, marked by Vera Flora, Rainforest Alliance. I've seen that one before. Or the alternative could be to gift someone with a potted plant, for example, which is a gift that keeps on giving. And so I'm thankful for all the small gifts that life brings me. I actually found this for free outside of the local country store. I offered to pay for it, but she said, nope, it's for me. So thank you for that. I am loving my new pot. That particular plant needed a pot, so that's an excellent win. And so there's lots of different ways that we can spread joy and create joy for other people without and doing the least harm possible to the environment. So I am encouraging people to begin to grow their own roses. I actually pulled a potted one in from the outside to see if I can get it going early and have a nice indoor rose, as it is quite cold here in Vermont. And also there have been some organized efforts to improve the flower industry, because it's not just roses, but we are talking about roses today again. And also, like, if I was a flower, whether that be a rose or cannabis or a lotus, or any type of flower, or fruit or vegetable, I don't want to be eating poison. I don't want to be damaging the environment. I wouldn't want to then be killing the bees, or responsible for people being damaged by my neurotoxins when they smell me. You can't even eat a lot of those roses that are being mass shipped over from places like Ecuador and Colombia. And no offense to them, because they're just trying to do what they need to survive in the modern day global economy. However, these large one crop fields of roses, for example, are destroying the natural habitats in those regions, which then destroys the wildlife. They also, for a very long time, employed a lot of child labor, inhumane labor laws, lots of sexual harassment of women at work, as well as, working long overtime hours without the just due of the overtime pay. And so there was an initiative in 1996 in Colombia that did make some improvements to the working conditions and outlawed the child labor. But there are still human rights violations occurring in the rose industry. There are places. I do have a friend who has a rose garden that I believe is organic in the Indus River Valley region of the world. And so, again, there are roses being grown in the Middle East and in other countries as well. And the best way to get to know a plant is to interact with it yourself. Just like with people, the best way to get to know them is to interact with them yourself. So with roses, you can begin by reading about roses, spending time around roses, ingesting roses, using products that have roses, surrounding yourself with pictures of roses, books, poems, plenty of poems about roses. And again, when you are buying flowers, you can look for some of those labels we discussed. And if you're growing them, some of the growing conditions. So I did want to talk about the soil. Hello, my son just got home.
What?
I'm making a video. Do you have a good day? Good. So the roses, they want a rich, loamy soil that's well drained, but full of nutrients for them. Some people do things like add alfalfa meal, kelp, also fish type products are good for fertilizing the soil. I like to make compost teas, even with nettle in the early part of the year, early part of the season, for example, prior to the blooms. And there are other, like worm castings is another thing that you can add to the soil. There are lots of different natural options, and then you can also begin to companion plant them. You do want to look out for the Japanese beetles so that they don't destroy your roses. And there are also mulching options where you can use different types of leaf compost blends and mulches around your roses. And so I suggest if you have the opportunity to grow roses, and if they're organic, then you can also compost your flowers. And if you use the rose hips and make rose hip tea or jam, for example, anything that you strain out afterwards, you can also add back into the compost. Now, even in 2013, Scientific America, I love quoting Scientific America, was printing out articles about how harmful the rose industry is to the environment. And one of the facts from this article stated that the transportation industry alone is responsible for 28% of the emissions in the United States. And most of that transportation isn't about commuting to work. Most of that transportation, I'm like doing this in my fist, most of that transportation is from large trucks, from consumerism. And I'm guilty of a lot of this too, because of being raised in that culture. It was just 1420 for anyone who cares. And I am also learning to make better consumer choices. And so part of reducing emissions is going to be reducing what we consume on every level, reusing things, taking better care of things, growing some of our own food, and trying to support local as best as possible, as well as, when we can, incorporating more sustainable transportation methods into the larger transportation, trucking industry, for example. But like, do we need to be importing 4 billion roses every year? No, we definitely don't. And does the earth need the impact of those 4 billion roses? Probably not. And it's not the rose's fault. It's not because there's anything wrong with the rose. It's because we are not honoring the earth. We're not honoring even each other, because that love that can be conveyed through a rose can also be conveyed through other methods. And one thing I love about meditation is that you don't need anything for it. Like, I might like to use a candle and light incense, and I have certain pictures of things that I like up, or books, for example, whether it be the Bible or a book of poems, all these different things, pictures of Mary that people use, or Jesus. It was just 1609 when I said Jesus. Anyways, just bringing in my goofy quirks to these videos because this is what I have for you all right now. If I were working for a producer or director of some kind, we could cut and edit these goofy parts out. But for now, I'm going to share my silly quirks with you all in hopes that it might make someone giggle or at least half smile. So, ladies, as much as you love roses, let's start encouraging sustainable organic rose growing, and let's start encouraging each other to love and value each other and the earth in a way that is actually harder than buying a bouquet of flowers. Like, taking care of somebody is way harder than buying them flowers. Really loving somebody through thick and thin, a bouquet of flowers might help, and it does. I love receiving flowers. I can't lie about that. It does make one feel good, but to really be loving someone unconditionally or as a life partner takes a lot more than a bouquet of flowers. And so if we're loving the earth, we're not poisoning the earth. If we're loving each other, we also cannot destroy the earth, because by destroying the earth, we're destroying each other. So my message of love here today about the roses and Valentine's Day that's coming up and the rose industry is that as much as roses are bringing the mystical rose, the holy rose is bringing this love and joy and compassion and gentle tenderness and forgiveness to the world, as well as teaching people about having boundaries to protect themselves and that they are valuable. We also need to protect the earth and the rose by not pouring chemicals into the earth and by not over consuming, whether we're using too much plastic or if we're damaging the earth with the way we're growing roses and the way we're shipping and giving roses. We might want to reconsider that. Maybe you want to give some organic rose oil, or again, gift your sweetheart, your lover, your secret admirer, gift her or whatever, wife, husband, with an actual potted rose and some organic dirt. That would be a great gift. And you can also support the slow flower movement. So there are plenty of people out there that are already a part of this and already doing this and already growing flowers. All right, so I did want to read this to you. So rose, this is the rose card here on the soulful level. So we don't want to put, poison in our soul just because we think it looks good to other people, do we? This is from the Soul Flower Plant Spirit Oracle deck. Rose. Rose is comforting and soothing, infusing your heart and soul with gratitude and joy, helping you to stay centered and loving to yourself and others. When it is needed most, Rose reminds you to be open to the sweetness of life and supports your personal growth whatever the conditions surrounding you may be. So Rose, even when Rose is growing up in poison or concrete, or the snow, Rose is still shining her love out with all her heart and soul and her gratitude, and still giving us her fruits. Even after her petals fall, she's still giving us the fruits of her labor. She's giving us those rose hips. And rose is one of the most encouraging plants to me. This is a Rosa rugosa, and this is one of the varieties I grow here at Sacred Earth Essentials. And so next week we have a rose meditation coming out on Bloominations, which is the name of my podcast. Helping the best bloom out of you. Life is not a bed of roses, right? This popular expression is often used to refer to the reasons why life is not pleasant and joyful. Yet, when you think about it, a bed of roses would not be terribly comfortable, what with all the thorns and all. That is where the medicine of rose lies. The paradox of the delicious, fragrant, sweet, and silky blooms with the masses of thorns and prickles. If you want to smell the roses, you will have to be prepared to get scratched, just a little bit. But you know in your heart that it will be so worth it. Rose reminds us how sweet life is. Rose honey, for example, one of my favorite, most delicious treats. Delicate and soft, fleeting and precious it is, this life. And also how hard it can be, given the human propensity to suffer. How deeply embedded are the crowns of thorns we wear in order to absolve our sins and prove our worthiness. Because surely, from the day we are born, suffering is seemingly our birthright. I would say that joy is our birthright, that love and happiness and peace, the fruits of the Spirit, are our birthright. When we align with that, acknowledge it, receive it, embody it, and live it. That practice what you preach. I almost said session. Practice what you preach. Comment, saying is true. Walking your talk. I can't dance. I can't talk. The only thing about me is the way that I walk. So the rose might say, I can't dance, I can't talk. The only way about me is the way that I bloom. All right. So as the rose blooms, she does, however, have an important message to help soothe and comfort our souls. The wounds of our heart. She says, we are not born to suffer. We are born to experience the beautiful, sweet deliciousness of life, each other and our own. Introverse. We are born to live in love and joy and experience the courage and strength of our hearts in times of suffering. They say love is also long-suffering. And when you think about the love that plants must have within them as they grow towards the sun, as they survive on this planet for tens of thousands of years, as they give us life, that's a lot of long suffering. And so when you are feeling stuck or overwhelmed and burdened with the depth of your personal struggles and suffering, may Rose come to you and heal you with her blossoming love and fill you with joy. And hopefully your tummy too, with some delicious, nutritious food that also brings a feeling of sweet comfort, as you may need the joy and the heart-warming, healing loving, soft, yet bright energy and wisdom of the rose. Don't forget, the earth is sacred, and you are too. Bye.